Hey, welcome to the Note Investor Podcast. I'm Dan Deppin, and today joined by Alex Goldovsky of Pro Title. So, Alex, how you doing?
Very good, Dan. Glad to be here.
Yeah, no, thanks for joining. Haven't actually chatted with you for a little while, so it's good opportunity to catch up. But for people who aren't familiar with you, maybe just give us a quick once over on kind of who you are and what you guys do at Pro Title, and actually beyond that, because you guys have learned at Note Expo, you guys do a bunch more stuff that I didn't even realize before.
Yeah, we're growing, and I'm in fact the CEO of three companies. So first one is Pro Title USA, as everybody in the capital markets should know. We really specialize in text title analytics due diligence for many capital market clients, both resi, commercial, second liens, and reverse. We probably hold about 45% market share on the transactional volume overall in 2023 for RPL and NPL. So that's quite an achievement for us. A lot of folks that are buying one note at a time, up to some of the GSEs or some of the large funds that buy in billions of dollars use our services specifically for analytics and different supplementary services that we provide. The second company that I own is called Doc Solution USA. That's doc prep and recording firm. Uh, I purchased them in 2021, and I can tell you we probably tripled in sales in the past couple of years since I took over. And my main focus is doing everything instantly, less stare and compare or tapping on a data entry, more utilizing AI, and I can tell you a touch about that. And then third company is Rated CPR firm, very similar to Cytosine CO Clayton. We're now rated CPR firm using AI. So we are the first one TPR company that's currently using AI technologies for credit and compliance, and similar applications where we have to extract and pull the data out of the documents and do something useful with it. So I'm sort of putting my mini Elon Musk hat and
Hmm.
trying to invent things. And we have a few patents pending for some of the very cool things that we're involved in that supposedly will help to expedite all the diligence cycles or processes for the investors. And I'm pretty psyched and excited about it.
That's cool. I'm glad you're attacking that problem because yeah, historically it's just tedious and kind of a challenge because I've always ordered O&E reports from you guys, but then I got to kind of like sit down and make sure everything matches and it matches what the seller sent me and look at the whole chain and it's just kind of tedious. And a lot of people like don't have time to do that or they don't have time to like learn how to do that, especially if they're just going to do like a couple.
Yeah, you know that's exactly why we started to go the route we did. I am an engineer by education, right? I have my master's at Lehigh University, my bachelor's at Temple, and my dad was an engineer, so didn't plan to do any of this. But when I started to invest in real estate myself before the financial crisis, I was just like you. I was looking at the paper, I was looking at the title research, and I used a company that should be nameless, and they cost me $20,000 mistake. For me as the beginner investor, that was devastating, and my wife almost killed me.
Hmm.
Let's just say that it triggered me to say well, there has to be a better solution. So we were really focused on inventing an automation where it's not just a title report, but for some of the big portfolios, we get to analytics behind that, right? So we have created this massive analytical interface where we feed in the O&E data, we feed in the bankruptcy data, we feed in the title exam data, recording data, the unrecorded municipal data all in one. And we, for many of our clients, we have this a single reporting interface that does pretty much everything for them as far as analyzing the investment, right? So we calculate things like, liens surviving the foreclosure that they can put on the discount requests. We generate the exception report by exception one by one per loan, right? So the seller can comment on some of the exceptions out there. We grade and risk every asset. And really, it was a sort of a preamble to starting the TPR firm, where we now use this pre-analyzed data and apply the sort of overall credit and compliance review and title review all together in the same interface. So it creates a very powerful sort of a software, or I guess fintech solution for capital markets.
Yeah. So what does TPR mean? I'm not familiar with that
Third party
term.
review. So
Oh, gotcha.
yeah, so this is really a rating agencies like Kroll, DBRS, Fitch, Moody, S&P. They rate a company that underwrites the loan, right? So if you are playing with the bigger fellows, bigger boys like Bank of America, JP Morgan, and others, or GSEs, securitization is being every securitization of the loan is being rated, right?
Hmm.
And in order for you to run diligence or touch that loan, you have to be rated by a rating agency, which one of my company is. So when you decide to cash out on your portfolio, one of the ways to do it is through securitization method, right? So once you accumulate enough loans, you can securitize them in the capital markets and get the sort of the money to buy more stuff, right? So that's a standard flow of a lot of funds that are buying from Fannie and Freddie. They buy in billions of dollars. They buy as NPL. They go through the cycle of different loss meet actions and waterfalls, try to get the borrower to reperform, and then performing loans have a better value or higher value if you compare the same loan at the time of the acquisition and you cash out on that value, and then you go and refinance through securitization. So it's a common practice when you look at the bigger funds on Wall Street.
So can you do that today, like on an individual loan? Like one of the
No,
things I've never,
yeah,
yeah, because like one of the problems, right, that needs a solution is, as an individual, I make an offer, and then as the buyer, like I have to go and pull the O&E and pull value and do all this stuff. And then a lot of times there's a problem and I can't close. And so I just spent some money I'm not going to get back. And then back, a few years ago when Harbor was selling all of their stuff, there were a lot of assets in there with problems. And there were cases where like a bunch of different people would spend the money to do due diligence. In fact, like Chris Seveny started keeping a toxic assets list, and we started like coordinating to see if people had already found stuff on it. And it
yeah,
seems like it would be better if just like, yeah, there was like a third party that could do it, where like the seller could pay for the due diligence. So it only has to be done like once. And then, maybe the buyer pays them back for that. But it seemed like if you eliminated all that legwork, the market would get like a lot more liquid. It would be easier for people, like more people would participate if you got rid of some of that friction.
yeah. So I have three responses to your statements. Let me start with sort of peeling the onion. Um, if you look at the GSC due diligence prior to the sale, pre-sale activities, Fannie Mae does a lot of title work upfront, even though it's not as great, but at least they can have some sense of a reps and warrants on the title work. So if the title work has errors, and it's not us, by the way, that Fannie will wrap for it, right? So that's number one. Number two is, or Freddie doesn't have that, right? So Freddie says, all right, buyer beware. I don't want to do upfront title work or credit and compliance reviews and then be responsible for it. I'll let you guys worry about it, and then I'll review the findings or exceptions once you bring it up to them. So that's sort of first camp of thinking. Two GSCs are doing things in the opposite way. The
Hmm.
and I don't have I don't have an opinion on what's good and what's bad. Number two, reps and warrants, right? If you look at HUD sales, HUD has the strongest reps and warrants, right? So they say, guys, don't worry about it. If there's an issue, we'll cover for it for a period of multiple years. after the purchase. So a lot of the investors say, well, we'll do very, very light diligence, and hopefully HUD will cover that with their insurance or ups and warrants on each loan that they sell. Typically, those exists for vacant property sales by HUD on the reverse mortgages. And sort of number three is really, doing well, looking in the future and even um, bypassing the diligence by introducing things like blockchain and ledgers. Like
Mm-hmm.
you and Chris would hold the toxic asset list of of sellers that we both know that might or might not have ownership in the asset before they sell. So that's really, criminal in my mind.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But having a um, blockchain-like ledger on every loan in the loan cycle will help investors gain trust in whether or not this is a worthwhile investment. So that's probably future 5, 10 years from now. Everybody's talking about it. Nobody's moving forward to implement it. There's a few securitizations using, digital mortgages and blockchain approach, um, partially funded by Redwood Trust, but it's still not mainstream. It's still sub 1% worth of total loans.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a lot of talk. I think there has to be a lot of regulation, government regulation involved to sort of put some rules on the market on what's trustworthy, right? Is Dan's and Chris's list trustworthy, right? How do you prove that?
Mm-hmm.
It has to be some sort of independently verified once, and then everybody says, "Oh yeah, yeah, okay, so it's trustworthy." So that's sort of a number three futuristic approach that I'm personally looking into. Just to sidetrack a bit, we've been successful in recording Ethereum QR codes as a part of the legal description that we've done in my doc prepping
Oh.
company. So that's pretty cool. In other words, you have a way to track the mortgage through the blockchain and through the county records, which is by law is required, right? For every transaction, you have to record an assignment, but you have double expense in tracking it in both places, right? So that's what's
Mm-hmm.
stopping the market because you have to spend money in recording the chain in the county records and also, few bucks on recording it through the Ethereum chain. So it's one of those things where it just didn't get enough traction because there's no value in, right? The trust level for blockchain should really be, generally accepted for it to gain the momentum in both regulations and the market acceptance.
And it sounds like eventually, like, would all the individual counties then have to agree to trust that blockchain and like use that as the process, which
Yeah,
seems
that's
like,
really
yeah,
10 to 20 years away because they have no budgets. They have no
right.
budget to do anything new. They're barely digitizing the records. And I'd say about 30% of the counties are still in a paper, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's unfortunately you need to create a federal effort to give budget to the counties to go digital and convert everything, and then sort of give them a framework for converting to blockchain. Now, that'll probably reduce a lot of jobs. So I don't know what the incentive is, right? It'll reduce the jobs of the title company clerks, loan officers, diligence companies like me, probably. I don't know. So, so
Yeah.
because we have to only touch it once, but if we're the first ones there, then it's probably somebody else's company will have to suffer. So there are a lot of opportunities there. I'm very excited about the future. In fact, every day I come into work, I'm super excited. I'm thrilled because with three companies at sort of my oversight, I get to invent things. And that's, being an engineer in me, I love this.
Mm-hmm.
So I come in and I say, hey guys, I'm so excited to do this and let's do this. And everybody will say, hey, this is impossible. And I go, well, what if we do it this way and we do this that way? And okay, it's very tough. Okay, but not impossible. So I get the people to listen to me, and the best feeling that makes me happy every day, and I share with my wife as well, is I get to invent things at my work. And the best approach in my mind, and this is I guess recommendation for anybody who wants to sort of feel my shoes and make sure that you have a sponsor behind your invention, right? So if somebody, your client, or ideally your client, right, or a sponsor or a fund says, well, we would love to have this, right? And everybody said, no, Alex, can you do it? And I don't shy away from the challenge. I say, yeah, let's try it. It's free. We'll throw developers at it. We'll develop, and then if it works and you're happy with it, go ahead and buy it. So that's the approach that I've been taking for most of my businesses. And to tell the truth, in the couple of years of the real slowdown in the capital market trading,
Mm-hmm.
we have been hiring and growing, all three companies. So, in my mind, the technology edge helps us to propel forward rather than, we're suffering together with the title companies that only base their business on refi, right? Their business is down 80%. So
Yeah.
I hear stories, horror stories that a company, let's just call it nameless company, went from 2,500 employees to 900 in a year. That's very tough,
Yeah.
right? It's a big firm. Everybody knew it, and now it's you're cutting, below the bone, and I don't know how they'll survive. So it's those stories I hear right and left, but I don't see it personally. I am thrilled to move forward and really get as far as I can in the tech perspective, especially with the rollout of AI. AI is a game changer for me.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because in the last podcast, which actually is releasing today that we're recording, people may have heard it. It was one I didn't have a guest. It was just me, and I was talking about like what I thought the future of the note business might be. And I threw out a bunch of business ideas and things, and I kind of called out like it's kind of interesting that you seem to be on a similar wavelength, right? Where there's opportunities in investing in notes on their own, but then there's also all these entrepreneurial opportunities as well because it's such a I would call it somewhat of a immature ecosystem, and we're in the midst of change, and so it just creates opportunities all over the place.
It's and it helps if I'm independent, right? So I'm not dependent on any private equity, or I'm not dependent on the underwriters, right?
Hmm.
And that helps me to really drive my agenda versus the agenda of some of the bigger players in the market. So that's one. Two is, um, let's just call things the right names. AI by itself, it's pixie dust. It doesn't exist. AI by itself does not exist. That's rule number one. Rule number
Hmm.
two, what under AI layer is useful software programs or elements or approaches that we call AI, right? They're not true AI, but they're human assist programs. So
Hmm.
in my business, machine learning, absolutely, it works. Great. Machine learning to recognize every document out there, absolutely. Is it AI? No, it's a program that has some clues to recognize a document. It's like a baby. You show the document and you say, this is a note, this is a note, this is a lunch, this is a note. And next time you show the document, oh, I know it's a note. Why? Because it uses the algorithm of recognizing the text patterns, right? It's all pattern recognition, right?
Yeah.
Recognize the text patterns of the data that doesn't change and the data that changes, such as address, name, interest rate, and so on. Fixed note, ARM note, right? So first, you educate the machine on the document type. For us, it takes 200 documents of the same type to educate the machine on what this document type is. And it takes us
That's not
about,
that many.
it's not that many. No.
That's
I mean,
actually good because that's one of the challenges with that is you usually need these big data sets you may not have, and you could probably train it on thousands upon thousands if you needed to.
you
So
could, but you
that's
don't need to,
yeah.
right? Why?
But
Because everything is standard, right? It doesn't, before, if you look back 10 years ago, right? Remember the OCR boxes where you had the OCR will OCR the text on the page, and then you have a
yeah.
split boxes drawn around each text word. and you say, well, I really want to have that box and this box, and then whenever the page is rotated or it's shrunk or it's legal versus regular, everything's messed up.
Yeah.
Today's technology, if you're basing your system on that, you tend to fail.
Hmm.
In today's world, there's something called NLP, natural language processing technologies, which allows the robot to read the text rather than look at the boxes,
Yeah.
understand the text, and then compare. Out of all the documents, I have the standard text of deed of trust or mortgage, and only pay attention on the differences, which are variable fields. 95% of the mortgages out there today that are active are all done in the past 5 years. And it's all
Hmm.
doc magic, usual templates, Encompass, and other, uh, document manufacturing software that will allow originators to use their forms to speed out, and they're all standard. The language is standard, right? Or if it's not standard, if you look at the forms 10 years ago, it's all similar. So
Hmm.
the robot understands enough to say, this is similar to deed of trust. It's a deed of trust, right? If you
Yeah.
put a uh, where the robot makes mistakes is when you have not enough, don't have enough data. Let's say you have a text card with just this is borrower address and then $200 paid on this date. So you tend to tell um, the machine this is the text card, this is the text card. Next time it sees an invoice, borrower name, receipt paid for you know, lawn cutting services or something like that. The robot will say
Hmm.
it's a tax card, but it's not. It's an invoice. Big difference. Why?
Yeah.
Because not enough data to make a decision, right? So that's
Hmm.
where majority of the issues are when you have a very, limited documents to read on, and then in my experience, for any new document, it takes about a week for a robot to learn on those 200 samples. So I have a staff of 3 people. All they do all day long is tell the robot where to take the data from. It's called data extraction. That's a technology that's a part of the AI as well. Data extraction.
Yeah.
So it teaches the robot, go take the data from here, on this document from there, on this document from here. And it's the same data, right? It's, let's say, a node date. You say here, 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 from the signature line, and here, and here, and here, and here, right? Next time, robot will know where to take the data once it recognizes the document. So that's a valid technology, right? Data extraction and data indexing, or setting the category on the documents, right? Computer vision, valid technology. What's it used for? Signed or not signed, notarized versus not notarized. So it's a technology that we use to look at the documents and say, oh, I see a signature. Oh, I see a notary, right? Valid
Hmm.
technology. There's more advanced technologies, but the more advanced you go in the chain of AI technologies, ChatGPT for our business really not super useful, right?
Yeah.
So ChatGPT is great for the customer service, sales, tracking, answering questions, analyzing, but not for documents, right? That's why
Hmm.
Amazon or Google or Microsoft have the unique tools like Textract and others that will only look at documents. And then, of course, you have tables, how to take the data from tables, and so on. So you build the library of tools within AI infrastructure to help you to read the documents. And that's the goal, right? The goal is you're now becoming a tool of any documents thrown at you, being able to recognize what it is and take the data out. And the applications are phenomenal. Attorneys, doctors, pharmacists, mortgages, insurance companies. So, for example, I want to, or auto loans, right? I want to take out the VIN numbers from all the certificate of titles on a portfolio
Hmm.
of auto loans. I want to get all the credit card portfolio analyzed for pennies on the dollar. It's no longer human labor. It becomes a semi-automated, human-assisted or without human-assisted, best effort data extraction and analysis. So things that we've done are so cool. A lot of large originators are calling us and saying, Alex, can you do this? And my answer is yes. I never say no. I never say,
Yeah.
is it possible? Yes. Can we do it? Yes. And we
Hmm.
do a pilot or proof of concept for, say, an originator to, we do like pennies on the dollar to analyze what documents are inside the collateral file. They drop it on our SFTP, we generate reports in seconds, right? To say,
Yeah.
found, 2 notes, 5 CDs, 3 LEs. And by the way, LEs and CDs are the toughest documents to extract the data. And we are the only one that extracts all the fees out of it for credit and compliance and submitting to compliances.
No, which ones are those? Sorry,
It,
CDs? Or,
yeah, CDs and LEs. So it's lender
uh-huh.
estimate and consumer disclosure.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, it's interesting you're talking about like what's possible, right? Because I have an engineering background too, and I started to say like anything's possible within the bounds of physics. As long as you're not breaking the laws of physics, it's possible. Now, it might take more time, it might be more expensive than what you're willing to do, but that's like a different question than whether something's possible or not. Yeah.
Yeah, so the technologies in my AI technologies, AI by itself, if somebody says I have AI system, they're just giving you a lot of pixie dust, right? What is that? What is AI?
Well,
It doesn't.
it's funny because in my product management career in the tech business, I mean, hell, like 2016-ish, AI and machine learning became big buzzwords. And people, in
Yeah,
fact, it's funny, I was working on this was a flash storage system. And my boss wanted to say that it used AI to do like data tiering and all the stuff. And I talked to the engineering manager and I said, do we do that? And she goes, no, our algorithm is very intelligent. It's not artificially intelligent. It's like a fixed algorithm. It's not
I,
adjusting. And so I
yeah,
told him like, yeah, we can't do that. And then the guy did it anyways. I'm like, so yeah, there's a lot of marketing and a lot of fluff
it is a marketing term. I can
around
tell you that
it. Yeah.
the big fund manager in our client told me one thing, Alex, if you come to my office and say AI in my office, you'll be kicked out.
Hmm. What I
I said,
find cool. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I said, I know exactly what you mean. I will never say AI. I'll say machine learning, data extraction, all the right terms that imply what we do, how we do it, and what tools we use, rather than saying AI. And AI, in my mind, is a marketing tool, but also it's very scary, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's a scare tactics for a lot of folks that are not familiar, or companies or CEOs that decided to, it's still not developed. It's a pixie dust. And now they find themselves really behind. They're scrambling. They're still paper pushers. They are not true believers because they don't have a feel or understanding that that works, right? And
Yeah.
that's scary because you're going to leave a lot of, I'd say 50% of the companies that didn't invest in AI in a timely fashion will be behind and will probably be struggling as the technology will evolve. The price difference between their services will probably be double than the AI human-based services.
And it's going to go fast. What I find interesting about it was when I was an undergrad in college, I remember talking to one of my professors in her office hours. This was like 1996. And she was telling me about her research. She was doing like neural network stuff. And she's like, oh, yeah, there's stuff, leads to AI. Like you'll eventually be able to do this and that. She's like, but we don't have the compute power. So she's like, we're working out the theory. You can't actually do this today, but someday we'll have the compute and then we'll be able to do all this stuff. And it's kind of cool that now, almost 30 years later, like the compute is there and people can do. Oh, but it's not a new
We
idea.
have to
Like a
be,
lot of it.
yeah, we
Yeah.
have to be thankful to Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin mining. Last week, I had an interview with Paval Agarwal, who is the CEO of Sunwest Mortgage and Angel AI. This is the guy
Uh-huh.
that paid for 2 Super Bowl ads,
Oh,
right?
wow.
Yeah, and he's famous for pushing AI sort of from the get-go. And he said that the computing power was a huge issue and very expensive until Bitcoin. All of a
Hmm.
sudden, everybody had to do a CPU redesign, including NVIDIA cards, that made things so fast, so cheap,
Yeah.
right? So OCR technologies is sub cents per page. OCR. It's
Hmm.
dirt cheap, right? So in other words, to OCR the document, you don't even count it as an expense on file, right? And all of a sudden you have all this data and all you have to worry about is the memory space on your server to make sure that's you never run out of it, or you go virtual servers on Amazon, and
Hmm.
that's also not very expensive. Before it was, now it's not.
No, it's
So all
basically
of a
infinitely
sudden,
scalable. Yeah.
exactly, all of a sudden you have a virtual, servers. In ours, we migrated from our own to Amazon AWS, and it doesn't matter how many files people throw at us, thousands of files, and each file is 10,000 page each. We
Hmm.
analyze the heck out of it, and again, without human assistance, I think AI is oversold, right? You still need human eyes, human elements to underwrite the file, to make a final decision, right? There's things that you know AI by itself may do, but there will be a lot of false positives, right?
Yeah.
So it's not as mature yet, specifically for some of the corner cases where somebody made a correction or human writing or rotated or poorly scanned or whatever it is. So AI might give an answer which is not shouldn't give an answer on an incomplete copy or poorly visible or misclassified, just like in my example. But at the same time, I'd say 90% accuracy is easy.
And that makes sense that like initially you would need more people in the loop, and then as that matures, there will you'll eventually need less and less of it. There'll
Then
be less and less
you
of a need
just
for
you
people in
you
there.
you just mentioned one key word, human in the loop, which I am
Hmm.
completely against.
Yeah.
I am against the human in the loop as defined by Google, and I'll explain why. Human in the loop is a data entry specialist that verifies how the extractor did its job. And in my mind, that person, human in the loop, is typically offshore individual.
Hmm.
They're cheap, but he doesn't have the understanding of the document.
Right.
So in my approach, we took out human in the loop, and the data is being analyzed, extracted, and then cross-compared against all the documents on file. Address on the note equals address on the mortgage equals address on the application. So all the common data points are being cross-verified for the source of truth, and then presented in front of none other but underwriter who understands the documents. So
Hmm.
underwriter is the first person looking at the documents or at the data with already bells and whistles and flags to say, hey, the machine found the address to be different from all the other places. Something's wrong there. And
Hmm.
only after underwriter corrects, that's the feedback that goes to the machine. That's how we structured it. There's no bottleneck on the human in the loop element going from the extractor to my templates for the human review. In fact, it's all done automatically, no delay, thousands of files done. And, probably we can, right now, we run about 10,000 files overnight.
Wow.
And that's fully indexed, data extracted, cross compared, all the rules, data in your face type of run. So it's you can close the loop and make it fully automatic, but there will be a lot of false positives. Which in many
Right.
cases, I don't know if you're fishing for 90% accuracy, maybe that's enough. But if you're
Well,
really
there's
trying to
different
be
kinds of
precise,
errors, right? Like if you flag something as an error and it's not, that's not too big a deal. The one that's like the one I'd be more concerned about would be where it flags something as okay when there's a problem, right? So there's like
yeah.
different types of errors that you can gear
In
for.
my mind, it's still AI technologists. Yeah, I didn't say AI. AI technologists um, are enablers for saving time on the human labor. And
Hmm.
just as the sort of rule of thumb, once we implemented the fee extractor with from every LE and CD of the loan file, it saved an hour per loan per employee on the review.
And what this means to me is, right, like if I look at when I started in notes and just real estate in general, like I was surprised by how long everything took. I was used to like doing stocks, E-Trade or like today you can buy Bitcoin, right? You can do Coinbase, do it on your phone. To me, that's like the ultimate goal is like when trying to buy a note. on my phone. Like today it takes weeks, like there's no way to do it. But as like you build out these solutions, we get closer and closer and closer and closer to being able to do something like that.
Yeah, so for me, I'm pretty psyched. I think the future is bright, and just to come back to why I'm a CEO of three companies is because the technology element is common across all three platforms:
Hmm.
text and title, doc prep and recording, and there the focus is I want to do instant documents. Instant documents. As soon as I have a title data and I have OCR and verified it, there's nothing stopping me from producing the assignment.
Yeah.
They're cheap, cheaper than offshore labor, right? There's nothing preventing me if I know who the buyer is, right?
Yeah.
So that right off the bat, the whole idea of hey, I need this, doc prep and recording firm in the ecosystem, it just goes away. If you have a firm that can produce automatically all the assignments or releases or the mods, whatever it is, right? Um, you don't have two separate companies. It's all one, it's all fully generated. Credit and compliance, the same thing. The title data is being ported into credit and compliance reviews. The loan files, collateral files is ported and extracted to the credit and compliance reviews. And now sort of the single person is in charge of overseeing all of the diligence data. And it's sort of all bolted onto each other, right? So in my mind, the reason for three companies is not because there's three separate companies. No, they're all pancakes in a single stack. They're all
Hmm.
needed, and if you don't use one or the other, and I was just talking to probably somebody we both know. He says, well, we do credit compliance on our own, and we do doc prep on our own, and we use ProTitle for title reports. I go,
Yeah.
well, that doesn't make sense unless you have a lot of staff that you're basically trying to get them occupied to do something. But if you can scale, you can
Yeah.
scale. Why would why would you not pay a few bucks to generate the assignment automatically?
Yeah, because like if I think about the way it historically works, right? Like I'm gonna buy a note from somebody, make an offer. I'm gonna pull title work. That might take a couple business days. Then I'm kind of going through it manually, and you're gonna flag things for me, but I still got to do some work to check on some things. Maybe I have questions, and then we agree, and then we get the sale agreement, and then you send funds, and then there's another like however long to get the assignments and quit claim deed if it's a land contract created. That takes a certain amount. It's a long. It's like you get into like a couple weeks like pretty quickly before
Yep.
it's all. So, but yeah, there's really no reason why I shouldn't be able just to say, okay, I want to buy this. Let me see all the title work and flag anything that might be wrong. And then, okay, this looks good. Send funds. Oh, here's all your assignments and stuff. Like that would be, yeah. Because in fact, some notes I bought about 2 months ago got into this big go around with the seller's attorney. Like, I don't know what happened. It took them like 2 weeks to create the assignment and quit claim deed. And then they friggin', instead of like scanning soft copies and sending them to me, because I was trying to get it boarded with the loan servicer, they FedExed them. So then I had to wait like another couple days to get them so I could scan them. And yeah, just a long friction filled process the way that it works now.
So in my mind, you just mentioned one important thing. Right off the bat, if we have an ability to create the corrective or gap assignments automatically using the title work, hey, I have a gap in the assignment chain. Let me click this button. It spits out the gap assignment automatically. You just shaved probably a few days for sure waiting for the attorney to prep it.
Let me ask you this. Can you, because this is timely for me to, can you guys create lost note affidavits?
Oh, it's a common question. So there's a lot of legal aspects. The answer is yes, and I'll put you in touch with Lori Lowe, who is the managing director of Doc Solution USA.
Okay.
She's done many of those, but I know some states will not allow it, or there's some caveats on some states. So
Okay. I'll
I
check
don't.
in with her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a common question. Trust me. But what we do also is don't kick the assets if you don't have a policy, right? my company can issue a replacement title policy
Mm-hmm.
as of the date of the original mortgage nationwide. Uh, don't kick the asset because of junior lien foreclosures. We
Mm-hmm.
have a 50 state attorney network that we deal with, so we can recommend one of the attorneys. Again, they're not our employees. The only attorney that I have on staff is Texas-based attorney. So
Uh-huh.
it's a requirement for one of my firms to have an attorney on staff, right? So I have an attorney in Texas. But all the other states will work with attorneys pretty much on a daily basis. DAC
Mm-hmm.
actions, curative actions, quiet title actions. We coordinate everything on behalf of the servicers. So we work with major servicers that ask us to coordinate and review and create all this stuff. The One of the big investments in this year was Instant Mods. So that's
Mm-hmm.
when my goal is on a single phone call from the investor to the borrower to negotiate the terms to be able to produce the mod documents during that call. That's phenomenal.
Okay.
Before,
Yeah.
it was a month for the attorney to draft it. Now, in my mind, you don't need to draft it. It's all common. It's based on your program, right? ARM fixed, 40-year maturity, a deferral agreement, whatever it is. We have the templates that on the same phone call with the borrower, you can generate the doc and then you can e-sign, e-notarize.
So what I do with my docs is something like in the middle. It's not nearly as slick as that, but it's better than doing by hand. So I just have a whole bunch of templates and I have a Google Drive plugin to do basically mail merges, right? So I can take a spreadsheet, I can put in all the key data, and then it turns the crank and spits out the doc. It's not
Exactly.
it's a hell of a lot better than doing it manually. It's not quite as it's not instant though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So instant. Well, it's 30 seconds or so to generate, or
Yeah.
whatever machine time is, but it didn't exist at the hands of the servicers. When you call the servicer, let's say you use SN or FCI or PHH, whoever, right? You say, can you schedule the loan for the loss meet? And it's the whole process, waterfall, where they assign the attorney calls the borrower, offers the terms that the investor, you, approved, right? And then borrower say, well, let me think about it, send me this, send me that. And to have an ability to cut out all this intermediate steps to licensed agent, right? Because you're not licensed to call probably your borrower. So a servicer to call without a referral and say, we can offer you A, B, and C, select what you want. And then you have the title data from us, right? It's all
Hmm.
digital. You have the guidelines for the mod. That's what you select as a setup file. And then you have all your investor data to sign, and then you can schedule the signing on the same phone call. That's where the huge savings is, right?
Well, and to me,
There's
there's two savings, right? There's the savings in time to get that generated. But the other thing too is if you can get it to the borrower to sign faster, they're less likely to change their mind. Like they
bingo.
might agree to
Yeah,
something on the call, but if you start letting a bunch of time go by, they may be in a different mood and not do it. So you're actually going to get more of these things implemented the faster you can go.
that's how I feel the same. I feel the same way. The e-signature is notary. I think it's only valid in one or two states in the United States,
Hmm.
but it's a mental note that the borrower already executed. And if you send the mobile notary to the house for the wet ink signature to make it valid in the states where it's not allowed, I think it really allows borrower not to change their mind and sign the document, right? So
Yeah.
just like you said, mentally they already signed, and this is just a confirmation of signature, right?
Yeah.
Even though, like I said, it's not there yet. Maybe in 5-10 years, all the states will be notary signing, and you don't have to send the mobile remote notary to the house. But right now, I think that's the way to sort of expedite the process, make sure the borrower doesn't change their mind, get things on the performance side, get the borrower start paying earlier than later, right? Because they signed it. Potentially, you can change the payment schedule, P&I schedule earlier than
Hmm.
waiting for a document to be drafted in 2 months, executed in another 2 months, recorded, and now 5 months later, you're still waiting for that first P&I payment. So it's there's so many benefits to it, and this is just an example of how technology will help us.
Awesome. Well, that's probably a pretty good starting point. Well, Alex, thanks again for joining. And as you get more ideas, just let me know, and you're welcome back on at any time as we get into more stuff. So,
Sounds good, and I'll see you at the next conference. I don't know if
are you
you're
going
going
to
to
be
the
at
second.
DME?
I'm probably not going to go to DME because of my personal um, uh, reasons.
Hmm.
But it's just I have a booked vacation with my wife, so I
Yeah.
can't skip that. But I'll probably be at the secondary conference in New York,
Okay.
probably MBS conference in New York, or CLO. Right now, it's called CLO conference in New York. And the next one will be AI conference in New York. So all New York
Oh,
conferences, yeah, they have the IMN is hosting AI conference where I'll be the speaker in the first panel.
all right. Very cool. Well, hopefully some folks will see you there. Okay.
Sounds good.
Thanks.